There's three things that they want to do. They want to ban private schools, ban homeschooling, and ban faith schools. Because the goal is to get everybody into the same system, where the system is united across the entire board in England, and later it will be in the entire world, whereby they can control what the children are receiving as data, which will control perception, which will then control behaviour.
Labour's manifesto will include a commitment to effectively abolish private schools.
But we want a fair system. That's what it means. It means that no longer can taxpayers' money go into private institutions that they squirrel away to help the 7% of our country do well when they're at the expense of everybody else.
To abolish them doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be better for everybody else because they're abolished.
Independent schools do not have to do the same curriculum as what the government-funded state or public in America sector have to do. The curriculum in private schools is the same as the curriculum in state schools or government-funded schools because of the exams. But technically it doesn't need to carry out the same curriculum. Therefore, those schools are very dangerous.
The thing that is most distorting our education system is the existence of private schools.
State school graduates are still likely to earn thousands of pounds less than those who are privately educated.
What we're seeing is entrenched privilege.
If this is fair, and if they should exist at all.
As a state school teacher, why would I not want the absolute best for the young people in front of me? Why don't they deserve to have small class sizes, luxurious facilities, access to this incredible network of alumni? And I think that would make our society much better and much fairer, and abolishing private schools is key to that.
When they say they want to get rid of private schools and put everyone in the state school education, they never tell anyone how good the state education is.
The number of teachers signed off with stress has almost doubled in the past 5 years.
71% of London's teachers say they've had physiological or mental health issues at work.
1 in 5 said they'd suffered from panic attacks. Over half had struggled with insomnia or difficulty sleeping, while 17% had been formally diagnosed with depression.
There's been a massive surge in the number of primary school students attacking teachers.
Why would you want to put private school people into that education establishment? Why don't you use the private education as a bar for the state school system to push itself up to? Instead of bringing everything down and deleting anything that's good so that nobody has anything to act as a comparison, why don't you actually use the private school system to better yourselves?
Say no to taxpayer funding of these brainwashing factories, also known as faith schools.
Children should be able to develop their own beliefs, free from indoctrination. Faith schools seek to instill religious beliefs.
Children should be able to develop their own beliefs, free from indoctrination. What beliefs is it that you wish your children to have? Because the government wishes for your children to have a particular type of belief.
Peaceful Fights for Equal Rights. It is a children's book. It's meant for kids ages 4 to 8. Assemble, take action, create allies. Resist. Be fearless. Fly a flag. File a lawsuit. Strike.
Declaration of what this is about. In Our World, Our Future theme, students learn about social values that, according to Zander Blaser, unite us as a country. Social values, social obstacles, group problem solving, and social justice.
Those are ideas and beliefs from a government. If the government sees that other institutions don't have those same types of belief, then it says that those children are being brainwashed. They may be being brainwashed, believing in something different, but that's not to say what it is that the government's also pushing on the children is not another form of brainwashing.
But faith schools segregate our children. When children from different backgrounds are educated together, they learn to get along together.
Faith schools segregate the children because faith schools have a different perception of reality. What's wrong with having a different perception of reality? What is wrong with having different ideas in society? The problem isn't having different ideas. The problem is not respecting people that have different ideas.
Many can discriminate against children whose families don't belong to the religion of the school. This means your child can be turned away from your local school because you're not religious or follow a different faith. Faith schools are a disaster for social cohesion.
Faith schools are a disaster for social cohesion, and funnily enough, also private schools are a disaster for social cohesion. And also, then they're going to attack the homeschooling, which is going to say it's highly abusive.
We have news out of California that the California legislature is now considering a piece of law that will assume, basically, that homeschool parents are child abusers.
Appearing in the newspapers at the moment, there are coming out stories of the abuse that's happening in homeschooled education because it's outside of the control of the government. The government doesn't put forward the examples of the terrible things that happen in state schools. If you listen to the teachers will tell you, because they're all leaving the state school system, they're all fed up and tired. They're fed up of parents that don't control their children, dumping them in state schools, asking the school in order to be the parent, basically giving up parental responsibility, which is what's going to happen further on down the line. Look at these stories, how the media is starting to plant seeds in the consciousness of people, preparing the people to be happy to give up authority for parents to homeschool children.
13 siblings allegedly held captive there by their parents. Our first look at those parents, David and Louise Turpin, gruesome conditions in which the siblings lived. Allegedly starved, shackled, beaten and tortured, and investigators say allowed to bathe just once a year.
This proposed California law will change the valid legal option of homeschooling from a fundamental parental right to a compelled consent to government intrusion upon the privacy of the home and of the school.
As soon as the state tells you that you can't pull your children out of school, it's immediately time to pull them out of school.
The Brazilian Supreme Court ruled that homeschooling cannot be considered a lawful means for parents to educate their children.
This is not the first time that the government has tried to push its ideas onto the young children. If you can change the ideology of the young children, then in the future they're going to have a particular perception of reality, and then their way of voting is going to be actually prescribed to them. Hitler also did exactly the same thing. He realized, I think in Mein Kampf, that getting the children and changing their ideas to his narrative would, when they grow up, actually empower him more. And the government is doing exactly the same thing. There's not much difference between Nazism, which is National Socialism, and socialism.
Deutsche Jugend, ihr seid heute hier. Und wir möchten nun, dass ihr, deutsche Jungs, in euch all das aufnehmt, was wir dereinst uns von Deutschland hoffen. Wir wollen ein Volk sein. Und ihr, meine Jugend, sollt dieses Volk nun werden. Wir wollen einst keine Klassen und Stände mehr sehen. Und ihr dürft in euch schon nicht mehr groß werden lassen. Wir wollen einst ein Reich sehen. Und ihr müsst euch schon dafür erziehen. Wir wollen, dass dieses Volk einst gehorsam.
So after the Second World War, from my understanding of my history lessons, is that in order to stop a repetition of a dictator or a single entity, for instance, like a government, pushing one particular ideology onto children, the German system of education was broken up into parts so that, for instance, one area couldn't teach the other area the same thing, or each area had a particular autonomy about it, so that if ever there was a dictator that was to return to Germany, by law they couldn't enforce the same ideology to be handed down to every single child. Each state had its own autonomy.
The German federal government doesn't regulate the school system. It's up to education ministers in the country's individual states to set the curriculum and hire staff. This complicates the enforcement of uniform guidelines.
The argument that people going to private schools are better than people that go to state schools is actually, it seems, a fallacy. What the truth seems to be is that it depends on the capacities and the behaviour of the parent.
We all know that on average, privately educated kids do far better than children who went to state schools. But most of that effect disappears as soon as you take account of the background of the children. One study says that private schools help children do just half a grade better in their GCSEs than if they'd gone to a different school. Another says that 99% of the difference at GCSE between private and state school children is explained by factors other than the type of school they went to. And research from America and Australia says just the same.
If you want someone to be better educated, as in better programmed within this system that we call school, you need to have discipline. Discipline comes from behavior. Behavior comes from the parents. If the parents are badly behaved, then the children are badly behaved, which creates disruption in the class for them and for everyone, bringing the school lessons down.
But after 7 years at Ebbsfleet Academy in Kent, head teacher Alison Colwell has had enough.
But it's not the children she's fed up with, it's the parents.
The minority of parents, but as I said, if you think about a minority of parents in my school, this is not about my school, this is about schools and education. And if you times that by the 4,000 secondary schools, the 20,000 primary schools, it is a problem.
The parent could behave so badly. You have been called the two worst words that there are by a parent in front of the pupils as they were coming to school.
And you said actually there is a direct correlation between sort of chaotic families and how those children go on to behave.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we suffer from it like all schools do. It's no bigger or lesser in my school. It is a societal problem.
And so what influence do you think they have upon their children and their children's view on schools?
Well, a very negative and damning one. You know, the NAHT's conference is having a motion to ask the government to do something about this because, as I said, this is a school-wide, nationwide problem.
If you can't change the parents, you have to make the school the parent, which means you have to disassociate the child from the parent and you have to give the school more authority over the children. And that is what's going to happen, and that is what is happening at the moment. Create a society where the parents go crazy, where the children get affected. Then when they go to school, the school needs to have more control over the child because the parents aren't fit. And the people that think they know what education is, the people in government that say they're going to educate everyone's child, I bet you if you asked her or anyone what the definition of education actually means, what is the goal of education, what are the spiritual aspects and the metaphysical aspects of education, because being spirits in this world, we are half human, we are half soul, so there is a metaphysical concept to our existential being here. What is that? And she won't be able to answer you because she herself doesn't know what education is. What it's trying to do is to get everyone into the same system so that you can teach one curriculum and then you can have control over the way that they think.